Wait for that little thing to come up there. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order and ask you to silence your telephones and stand for an invocation and I'd like to ask Dave Duraney to grace us tonight.
Father, we come to you this time, Lord, to lift you up, to give you praise, and thank you for everything you do for us. And Lord, just thank you for getting us through this storm recently. And Lord, thank you for that, Lord. Just thank you so much. And just continue to bless each and every one in the city as we go through the cleanup process. Be with each and every one. Lord, we're careful to give you praise and glory for it all.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is items for of community interest. And I have some things I would like to say and announce. One of the first things I'd like to do is recap a little bit of a thank you for people that I know we'll miss on our list, but we had so many people from out of town, out of state. I think LDS said there were 7 different states represented when they were here. But after the tornado, we had Texas Department of Energy Management, which they call the TDM. I'd like to thank everybody they brought in because there was people specialized in every area to help us get our feet back on the ground. The city of Sanger, the city of Denton, the city of Bryan, and Bryan, Texas Utilities all came with electric teams to help us set up our electricity, get it going, new poles, new transformers. TDM brought in the SAWS teams, which by the time we got to this, I thought SAWS was an acronym because absolutely everything else they said was an acronym, and actually all it was guys that carried saws and cut down trees. So we thank the SAWS teams quite a bit. Along with them came the Samaritan's Purse, Billy Graham Ministries, Texas Baptist Men's Disaster Recovery Teams, the Latter-day Saints, the Lord Send Me Ministries, our department heads. Every department came out and represented the city during the last 2 weeks. They have gone above and beyond their call of duty to help get the city back on its feet. And citizens, it's been amazing. Saturday, I think I posted something on Facebook that said it's just a blessing to see neighbors helping neighbors, and that's what it was. Neighbors have just come out in droves with trucks and trailers to help us get the debris picked up in the city. Along with that, I'd like to make a few special thank yous. One of them to the Montague County Emergency Communications Team for being in the Operations Center that night and getting us all where we needed to be. Secondly, Stephanie Post, which was thrown into a job that nobody should have to do on their own, but she has organized all the volunteers and she's taken telephone calls after telephone call after telephone call, people needing help. Cindy Roller for getting all the information out to everybody as fast as she possibly could on absolutely every city place we have to put information, every avenue. Clyde Johnson and his crew, Stoney Lawrence and his crew, Jay Evans especially and his crew for the electricity coming back on so fast. Sandy put us on the website, kept us up to date. Carrie's keeping all of our numbers together, and as much as we want to keep up with our expenses so that we can figure out how to pay the bills at the end of the month. Bert Cunningham for everything you've done to keep the city going. And Janice Crawley and the Bowie Economic Development Corporation for letting us use the land to burn all the debris. And Janice has become known as the trash lady. She has made sure that all of the trash dumpsters were emptied for us and put them out where all the citizens needed them to go. The council members that came in and worked with us at the EOC, thank you for coming and showing up and being there when questions needed to be answered and things needed to be done. And I'm not supposed to do this because I'm going to get in trouble, but Joe Crawley and Mark Burris both for just being there because they belong to myself and Janice. I'd like to also take a moment to address something that several citizens have asked me about and would like for me to confirm. That is, they are being told that the city council at the last meeting broke the law by not having a quorum. And I want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Yes. Deny that, because there was a quorum at the city council meeting. We had the city attorney here, they had the city attorney here in attendance in case there were any questions that would arise about whether or not there was a quorum. So I want it made very, very clear to the citizens of the city of Bowie that there was a quorum and there were no laws broken. Some other things in the community interest area, our Jim Bowie Days Rodeo Association is in full force. So the rodeo will take place as it has for the last 53 years. I think it's 53 years. Second Monday this weekend was a huge hit. There was tons of people out there. I know, Clyde, you're not happy yet, but they'll get there. The vendors are still a little slow to come back, but the people are there walking, buying whatever's out there that's available to them. The Community Development Board, which will present the July Jam and the Reds, Whites, and Brews, both in July. Those are set to go. It looks like the Outdoor Expo in August is set to go. So we're headed back to full use of our city at 100% very, very soon. And in case you weren't here and you don't know who I am, which I think everybody in the room does, I am Galen Burris, and I was appointed at the last meeting to fill the term of the resigned Mayor Bill Miller. So I'll be here until November of 21. And at that, I will turn it over to public comments, if we have any in the audience. Anybody would like to make a public comment? State your name, please, and speak loudly.
I am Stephanie Post. What was that word?
Speak loudly.
Okay. I'm from Chicago, so I will speak loudly, and I'll probably speak a little fast. I have volunteered over the past 2 weeks as the EOC Disaster Relief Coordinator in our community. I come before you tonight to address how privileged I feel to have worked alongside some of our city officials during the time when our city needed us the most. I have looked into the tear-stained faces and the tired eyes of our city officials and city employees as we all banded together to help our community out of the rubble. To some citizens, it may have just seemed like business as usual, but it was far from that. Their hearts broke alongside yours. You see, they don't just reside in Bowie. Bowie is their home in just as much as anyone else here. Over the past week, I believe that a couple of our past and present city officials have forgotten that. They forgot that when they made the decision to use social media as a tool to discredit the hard work of every city official, every city employee, and over 800 volunteers that came from not only our own city, but also from across the state to help lift our citizens out of the destruction that was left behind because of the tornado. They made comments on how they would have done things better, or that people that were out in the field were not doing enough. They had suggestions that they wanted to pass around and share. Yeah, I never saw their face at a city meeting. I never saw their face out at Ground Zero. I never saw their faces when the multiple state agencies were together here in this building that was used as a disaster relief command center. They certainly did not reach out to me asking how they could help out in the field or at the call center. You can offer all the suggestions that you want up in the world on how you think things should have been ran. But when all you have to offer this city is your uncanny ability to sit behind a keyboard and speak out against the disaster relief effort that you chose not to be directly involved with by using social media as a platform to continue to push your agenda of creating division in our community when we were hurting the most was unprofessional and it was distasteful. I don't care what your differences of opinion are with our mayor, with our city manager, or other council members. During the disaster, you set aside the petty differences and you take off that keyboard warrior cap that you so proudly wear, and you walk out the door, and you come together as a team to help the community that voted you into the seat that you're sitting in now. If you state that your heart is for this community, and you held a past or hold a present position in the city council, you pull up your bootstraps, and you get out in the field, and you help your community. I say all this to remind you that are sitting in this room and those that are online. Remember what I said here about who was here for this city. Who had the sleepless nights? Who held the hands of those survivors and prayed with them? Who was up at the crack of dawn out in our community getting their hands dirty? And remember who were the ones that made social media posts and comments discrediting the hard work of those that were here for your city, your community, and your family. Remember those things come November at the voting polls.
Dylan?
I'll state my name even though I've got up to this podium enough times that everybody should know who I am. My name is Dylan Steen, and before anybody says because I type my comments out that they're not heartfelt, I assure everybody they're very heartfelt. I just want to take a short moment tonight and be thankful. And it seems weird to say, how can you be thankful for a tornado? Well, I'm not really thankful for the tornado itself, but I am thankful for what it showed me and hopefully what it showed a lot of other people in this town. The tornado showed me that we absolutely have the right people in office right now. Mayor Burris and City Manager Cunningham were the leaders we needed when the tornado hit. In my opinion, they're the leaders we need to keep us moving forward, strong and not fearful, willing to roll up their sleeves with the rest of us. I'm thankful for them. The tornado showed me that we have a lot of outstanding citizens in this town. Some that just moved here not too many years ago. I saw so many folks helping one another, even helping complete strangers. It was heartwarming. It showed me Bowie can work together. I saw people volunteering in all aspects because not everybody can do the physical work. But volunteers came from all over, not just this town, not just this county, not just the state. I had LDS people standing on my property that I guarantee you from their accents they were not Texas. But it just showed me that, and I had plenty of Bowie folks standing on my property too. Some that I didn't even know, but they told me they were from here. So it showed me that we can accomplish great things when we have a positive mission in mind. And I am thankful for that. The tornado also showed me that some people are going to complain no matter what. And they're never going to be happy and want us all to be miserable with them. I try to always think that even the people I disagree with will band together in times of need. It was proven this was not true. I'm thankful for that eye-opener that makes me trust some mankind just a little bit less. I'm thankful for the city councilman that might have lost his temper once in a while, but he was also one of the first ones on the roads to check out the citizens in this community and see what they need. I'm thankful he is a man of action, trying to help the citizens and businesses of this city rebuild, not trying to boycott them because their corporate office dictates a certain policy that they must follow. I'm thankful for the city council member and her husband and the team that they have put together to aid all of this town in an emergency. Their dedication, devotion, knowledge, and time is unmatched. The team is widespread, and I'm thankful for each of them. I'm thankful for the council members who rushed to the EOC to see how they could help. Wayne, that's the first time I ever saw you in a pair of shorts, brother, because you were there. I'm thankful to all of the city workers, from the fire department to the police department to finance to the street, everybody. I mean, everybody was everywhere. How in the world would we have made it through this without each and every person? I'm thankful for you, Mayor. It's no secret that we're friends now. But you were barely back in a week of office, and you had to face something that nobody wants to face. your town under siege by Mother Nature. Yet you stood rock solid. You handled business. You checked on those that in this community that you've been berating constantly. You still checked on them because they're citizens, but you cared, you led, and you worked. And your family was out there doing cleanup too. You and your family. In fact, your husband hung off of my roof. I'm thankful for y'all. I'm thankful for a city manager who not only jumped into action full force as city manager, but also one who cared, one who rolled up his sleeves and worked his tail off physically, hauling brush, debris. You might be brash at times, Bert, but you're no BS. Everybody knows where they stand with you. And I'll take brash over BS every day of the week, bro. Every day. And I'll take hard working and truly caring every day of the week. People want to throw that senior citizen label around. You might be there in years, brother, but there ain't nobody going to pin it on you because you outwork a lot of us younger. You're a hard-working, tough man who cares about this city just as much as anybody sitting in here, if not more. And I'm thankful for you. In all honesty, I'm thankful for much more than I can stand here at this podium tonight and list. Bowie can be a positive atmosphere. We all prove that, even the time of disaster. I believe it can be that way moving forward if we all work together. None of us are going to agree 100% of the time, but if we put our energy into building up instead of tearing down, we will all be better off for it. One last thing, I'm thankful to the good Lord above for sparing all of us a fate that could have been a whole lot worse than this disaster. And I'm damn proud to call Bowie home.
I did leave something I think is really important off, and that is,
I wasn't going to come up.
name.
Sean Reno. I want to thank everybody for the whole tornado relief effort. I just want to tell everybody that I'm not from Bowie. We moved here 2 years ago, and it was our choice to make Bowie our home. And we're proud of Bowie.
Thank you. As far as the debris goes, the park will be open tomorrow, one last day. But that's not to say that we won't be open again in the future, and we're not going to pick up brush again. But right now, we've got to clear out the park so we can take more out there. So if you talk to somebody, tell them to still be patient, that as soon as we get someplace we can, last count is thousands of loads of brush out to the park. I mean, it's full. So we're going to burn first, and then we'll set with a new plan as soon as that's done. Now, I think I'll turn it over to you for your report.
Don't steal my thunder.
Oh, come on.
First thing I need to do is talk about, I was in Denver, Colorado when this hit, and with my daughter, and my phone exploded. If you've ever seen a phone explode. So we got up early the next morning and came back. And I hit the ground running early Sunday morning, and I knew I had clean up to do in my own yard. But what was really pleasant is I had some really good neighbors, because I came home Sunday afternoon late, and they had cut my tree down, they had taken care of all the brush in my yard and done all that. So that's what good neighbors are all about. So, and Jacob and Chesney Bullard is their names, and they're a wonderful couple. So we really appreciate that. Chesney's dad is Tim, and I don't know Tim's last name, but anyway, they did a fine job for me. My report tonight is all about the tornado, and some of these numbers will kind of scare you and tell you where we're at. But we had 528 total structures either lost or damaged. 422 of them were residential structures. 106 were non-residential structures, which is businesses, churches, and other non-residential. Total estimated damage just on that was somewhere over $20 million. I hate to say, but you know, FEMA doesn't do anything unless you have $38 million worth of damage. I'm glad we didn't, but it would be nice to qualify for some of their money, which we sorely need. On the electrical side, Jay and his crews, along with Sanger Electric, Denton Electric, and the BTU contractor, replaced over 50 utility poles along with transformers and wire. We also paid to repair electric service to low-income residents where their meter bases, weather heads, and electrical boxes were damaged, and that was about 50 homes. Total cost of the electrical repair will probably be about $1 million when all the bills are in. Stoney's crews spent hours and hours cleaning up vegetation damage in town, including many hours of overtime. Our crews hauled over 3,200 trailer loads of trees and brush to the business park. Estimated cost of the cleanup is around $60,000 when all the costs are calculated. So you can see what kind of devastation and what kind of money it's going to cost, not just the city, but the residents of the city. There's a lot of people that have lost their homes, and we need to keep them in our prayers and hope that I and the city can come up with some sort of money to help them with that. And on a lighter note, last Thursday, the Charter Commission met for the first time, and after introductions, they elected officers. The officers are T.J. McEwen, Chairman, Margin Latham is Vice Chairman, and Greg Stalkup is Secretary. They went over Section 1, 2, and 3 of the current charter. At the meeting on June 18th, which will be the next meeting, we will go back over Section 2 and proceed forward. We had chosen a great group of people for that, and I'm really proud of them, and I think they're going to come up with a good document. There's a lot of changes that need to be made in the charter. They're just outdated more than anything else, and so we look for that. So, and I think they'll bring us a document that the citizens can vote for. That's it.
Any questions for the city manager?
Just thanks for coming back, Bert. We need you.
Thank
Yes, thank you for coming back.
you. I wish somebody had bought me an airplane ticket. It's 12 hours of driving, gets old.
So next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items. You have before you the meeting minutes from the last two meetings and resolution 20-2015 and 20-2016. I would entertain a motion to approve them
So
as
moved.
presented.
So moved.
Mr. Malone, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Higgins? Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster? Aye. Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins? Sorry. Approved unanimously. From there, we go into new business. Discussion and action. Number 1 on the list is to accept the resignation of Councilmember Thomas Kent.
So moved.
Mr. Malone, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Bell? Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins? Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster? No. Okay, we have a 4-1. All right, let's move on to number 2, which is consider the process to appoint a replacement for Precinct 1 council member. As you all know, we have 30 days to make this appointment, and the 30th day will be June the 23rd, I believe. It's the end of the 8 days. So normally it's by appointment, or you can call for a special election.
The first chance of a special election will be in November.
So it would be vacant until then.
What happens if we don't find a candidate, or nobody wants it, or we can't find anybody that we all agree on?
Then it'll be vacant
It'd
until
just be
November.
vacant till November. Okay,
I think we should open up for applications.
Applications.
See what we do.
sure.
So is that your motion?
I'd make a motion for that, yes, ma'am.
So
Second.
Mr. Love makes a motion to open up for applications. Mr. Malone, you seconded?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long? So Tuesday, starting tomorrow, and then Friday would make it the 12th, and we can do it on the 22nd meeting, and that's one day shy of our 30 days. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so it'll be open from the 9th to the 12th? Applications at the office?
And it'll be enough.
You want to see a calendar?
No, I'm just making sure. We've got to have it filled by the 23rd.
By the 23rd, and we have a meeting on the schedule for the 22nd.
Okay, this one.
Okay, so any more discussion? If not, Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster? Aye. Mr. Love?
Aye.
And Mr. Malone?
Aye.
So we got a 5-0 vote there. The next item is the resolution 2020-17-A, a resolution authorizing application for financial assistance from the Texas Water Development Board for sewer system improvements and making certain findings in connection herewith. If you have any questions with this, I would ask you to ask Bert.
What can you tell us about this, Bert?
This has to
Refresh
do-
us.
This has to do with Texas Water Development Board loans and all of the requirements therewith, so. And this one, I've looked at so many of these. This is just the application and authorization to seek the money from Texas Water Development Board of $10,311,444.
What's the term of this money? What's the term?
30 years.
30 years?
Yeah. And this is not the final deal. This is just an authorization as we go through it.
I thought we were talking about 9 million.
We were, but as the engineering studies have taken place and whatnot, they've come up with some things. Mostly, the Water Development Board did some estimates, and the previous engineer did some estimates, and they proved that to be incorrect as far as cost per foot of sewer line and things of that nature, so it increased somewhat.
If we get this, Bert, is this gonna increase our pace on the citywide project for new water and sewer lines?
What do you mean by?
Well, I mean, is this gonna help us to,
Yeah, part of this money we get will, after they lay the sewer lines, they'll pave the streets too, so.
oh, okay, that's allowed?
Yes.
It's a loan, not a grant.
Yes, I understand.
Now, I'm gonna clarify what the mayor just said. It is a loan, but if we qualify for green, and we'll certainly qualify for low income, there could be some of this loan that will be forgiven.
It's true, I forgot about that.
I haven't.
I know, I've been gone for a while.
Aren't we way down on the list though for forgiveness?
The list gets renewed every year. And, we'll probably be in a new year by the time we get this money and get everything done. And that's one of the things you run into. A lot of these communities get down the road, of doing this, and they figure out they either don't wanna do it or don't have the financial wherewithal to do it, and so they turn the money back. So they turn it back and they've qualified for green money or low income money. That could mean up to 30% of the loan forgiven. And I'm not telling y'all that will be that way. We may have to borrow and pay back the whole 10 million, but there's a good possibility that we could. So we certainly qualify for the low income.
Maybe the tornado will help us in that area where it didn't help us anywhere else.
Yeah, maybe so.
So do I have a motion to approve this resolution? Mr. Bell, do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Malone? Ms. Buckmaster?
No.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins? Thank you. Okay, under new business, we have discussion and action, and Mr. Calabretta is going to come up and talk to you about it.
On May 21st, the Planning and Zoning Commission met to consider the recommendation for a request from Darrell and Angela Henry to replat 2.51 acres and part of Lot 3, creating Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 1 Henry Addition. And for our consideration, we approve that one lot. Do you have any questions? Then answer with those. If you're looking on that photograph, the lot in question is back here, and where the driveway is, that's combining those. This is a separate lot on this side, so.
Are they owned by the adjoining house? Is that those lots and they just want to put them together?
They're all owned by the Henrys.
Okay.
We just want to put them together to solidify that access to the property.
It's not going to deny anyone else access to anything that's important, is it? Doing it. Will it deny any of the neighbors access to anything that is important?
No, it actually does not, because there is a, if you look at this end of the property, there's an alleyway.
It'll actually help us, Chuck, because we've got a pole on the backside of some of that property,
Mhm.
and we'll be able to use this driveway to get to that pole.
Okay.
Instead of having to come all the way across their property.
You're talking about this 0.04 acres, that's the easement right here? Is that what you're talking about?
No, right here. Typically, we would, this
Oh, right
is
there,
the
yeah.
alleyway, and we've got a pole right here, so we'll be able to put our trucks in. and come down.
Okay, we got you.
So do I have a motion to accept this presented to us by the Planning and Zoning Committee?
So moved.
Mr. Love? Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Malone? Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins? Okay. Let's move on to Resolution 2020-18-A. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole resolution because it's not required, but it is a resolution regarding the contract 7219041 from Texas Department of Agriculture regarding the civil rights for the city of Bowie. So I'm assuming that if you have any questions, you will also, again, direct them to Bert.
This is just standard fodder from the state of Texas, wanting to make sure we don't violate anybody's rights or anything. It's a resolution about civil rights.
Well, I'm all for it, but I'm gonna hold on to my copy just in case you get out of hand, Bert.
The community development block grant has to do with sewer line, that is, runs parallel to Mill Street underneath the railroad track. We're, even to this late date, we're having to make changes, to that because, between us and the engineer, we figured out that we're gonna have to bore the road, and we didn't think we'd have to bore Mill Street, but we're gonna have to, so, which is, FM 1125, so.
We entertain a motion?
Yes, I am entertaining a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. You came prepared to work tonight.
I'm ready to get out of here.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Higgins? Mr. Bell? Mr. Malone,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins, Ms. Buckmaster.
Aye.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to consider a property lease to the Bowie BMX Bike Park, Inc., which I hold dear to my heart, so I'm glad I'm back to help pursue this, because I think we visited for the first time last August about this. So it's been a long year. So you guys have been presented a lease. I think at your last meeting, you had a discussion
John?
about,
You want a copy of this?
yeah. You might want to say no. I think at your last meeting, in
We
your
just got it.
discussion with this, you talked about doing this in conjunction with the city. I think this move to lease them the property is a far better decision. And I didn't make it, so, I mean, I'm not taking any credit here. But I think it will keep our hands from having to be in the middle of it. Have you, I know that you told me you'd applied for your 501.
Yeah, we incorporated as soon as we got approval from the city, and Linda works for an accounting firm, and so they're applying for the 501(c). We were at the USA BMX had their first national since COVID in Pryor, Oklahoma, which we just came from this weekend. And it was a good national. There's over 1,000 kids that showed up to race, over 2,000 families. I mean, it was, and I talked to USA BMX about it, and actually the people that run Pryor, Oklahoma, it's a brand new track, and they just went through all this stuff, and they're gonna send us all their 501(c) stuff, all their grant stuff. I mean, because we even want to go farther than just the BMX track. I mean, we want to try to write some grants for bicycle lanes through Bowie, and so we've got we made some really good contacts.
So you plan to be here a while? Okay, that's all that matters. So, you guys, we just got the lease today. If you want to take a minute to read it. I would like to point out that this is in your name, Sean,
Yes.
until you get your 501(c)(3).
Mayor, if I may, I'm the one who drew up this agreement. I'll tell you why I drew up in that fashion. But I have one question beforehand. So we set this up, I noticed you said elected the article of incorporation. It was approved on May 19th. So are you planning to have the incorporation, is that going to, who's going to run the 501(c)(3)? Is that how you're going to structure that, or do you?
We were told by our accountants that if the LLC could not be turned into a 501(c), so to incorporate the 501(c), or the corporation can be turned into the 501(c).
Okay.
Was the advice.
So how's it going to be, do you have any idea how you're going to run the 501(c)(3)? I mean, is it going to be run from a member? From a board, okay. So,
Yeah, we'll have a president, vice president, treasury, secretary. We'll probably have about 7 people on the board that it'll be run by. And then there's, the way USA BMX does it is outside of the board, there's a track operator
Okay.
that actually runs the track with the guidance of the board.
all right. So so you did the incorporation and you're going to then turn that over to the 501(c)(3) that's going to be run by you said a separate member board or so?
Right.
Okay. So Mayor, the reason why I drafted that in order to put Mr. Reno's name there is just kind of a catch-all cover. I mean, most things that's in this lease, and which you'll notice when you look at it, is just, one thing is, is make sure there's insurance, which I did see this insurance, and the language in this talks about the terms that what I saw in regards to per accident, per person, that type of thing, and property damage. That's listed in here, so that part's covered. But the other thing too is what's most important here is indemnification. So, someone gets hurt, something happens, they can't come back and sue the city or so forth. I've been involved with racing of some form since 1986. I have a little bit of background in this. So that way, the city's covered in regards to that. But the reason why I put your name in there, and it will be in there even when we do, if we have to restructure this lease to that, is because should one day you guys decide that, we're through with BMX, our kids have done it, we don't have anybody that can run the track anymore, and we just don't want anything to do with it. Well, at that point in time, maybe this 501(c)(3) is dissolved, maybe the incorporation's dissolved, and then we have nothing, and we have mounds of dirt down there. So we just have to make sure that when it's all said and done, that the land gets put back to the way it was. So that's why your name is in there, just to make sure that that's done. So, 'cause, you know, the insurance and everything will pretty much cover anything that I could even foresee that could happen as far as an injury and so forth.
So with my name being in there, does that won't be liable for any other things that I don't know about?
Well, it'll be anything that's not covered under the insurance and so forth. So again, that's why you have that insurance, and you have some pretty large policy limits in regards to that. So anything outside of that, so it could potentially, but like I said.
And another thing with USA PMX outside of that insurance policy is that if we put a fence around the facility, whatever, I mean, even if it's just around the track, that insurance goes from that policy to 24/7 around the clock. If some kids break into the deal and they ride the track by themselves and then they get hurt, so, I mean, we can increase or decrease the liability of all of us.
Well, anyway, if you want to take some time to cover it, I think it's kind of voluminous, I know, but that's why I had you in there, just like I said, when it's all said and done, you know, I know that the city will want their land the way that they've handed it off to you, so, all right.
Thank you. It's not on the agenda. Oh, you won't go back to your report? Okay. So do I have a motion to approve leasing this property to this gentleman?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Love. Second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Higgins? Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Mr. Bell? And Ms. Higgins? Thank y'all. We got lots of fun for our children. Bart needs to go back to his city manager report for a moment, so we're gonna backtrack and pick up something else.
One last item, we put this in your packet. This is rates based on the cost of service study by Snyder Engineering. At some point in time, probably the next meeting or two, because of the budget, when we're gonna see that. And it may be wait on this until we get into the budget meetings, but anyway, I will explain everything here to you and whatever. I wanted y'all to be familiar with it, if you have any questions between whenever we go over it in the meeting and now, then just let me know and I'll explain everything to you. But I wanted y'all to see this. I didn't want to give it to you the same night that we talked about it. It's just a little early now.
Okay. Then with that, do we have any old business? If not, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:42. Thank you for attending.